Hello, Luke Michael Howard, hypnotist and owner of Hypnosis, and you're probably watching this video because you're one of my clients and you're watching the aftercare videos that I've made for you to ensure that the changes that we made in the session are locked in place, glued in place, and replace the old behaviours, making this the new normal. If you're not a past client and you're watching this, or a current client, bad, switch it off completely, you're not allowed. And I'm just kidding. If you want to get something from this as well, by all means, but this is specifically for my smokers. I would have taught you this in our work in our last session together, but what happens oftentimes as a smoker, when you ask them what's their favourite puff of the cigarette, it tends to be the first puff of a new cigarette, and it's like, well, yeah, I was just really stressful and I lit up that cigarette and that first puff made me feel amazing, i.e. there must be something amazing in that cigarette that makes me feel amazing. Here's the interesting thing. Cigarette has at least 2,500 different chemicals in. About 40 of those chemicals have been directly proven to cause cancer. There's nothing good in a cigarette. However, the interesting thing is, it takes approximately 5 minutes after the completion of your cigarette, when you finish the cigarette, for the chemicals to get into your body. So when people say that very first puff of a cigarette made them feel completely different, it scratched that itch, if you will, it can't have anything to do with the cigarette. Now, if they said 5 minutes after completing the cigarette, oh, I feel amazing, I feel good, maybe they have a point, but it's always that first or second puff. But the chemicals haven't got into your body yet. So all that's really changed is most people are breathing through here, their chest the whole day, and they're accessing fight or flight. Fight, flight, or freeze. And they've got all this adrenaline that's going out for no particular reason, and which eventually leads to cortisol wasting away and feeling bad. So basically, what happens when you take the first puff of your cigarette, first puff of the day, maybe when you've woke up in the morning, perhaps on your break at work, is you spend most of the day breathing through here, and the first time you take a big, deep tummy diaphragmatic breath is when you have that first puff of a cigarette. So yes, something did change that first puff of a cigarette, but it had nothing to do with the cigarette. It's that you went from breathing here to here. So just by changing that breathing, impacts you very powerfully. The second thing I want to teach today is the eye circles, and I would have taught this to you in our work together. But what this technique I'm about to show you, and it takes less than 30 seconds to do, is it basically releases the same chemical inside your body as when you had the first puff of a cigarette. It just makes you feel satisfied, it makes you feel calm, it makes you just feel neutral for a moment. So all you do, as I taught you in the lesson today, I taught you in the session, is you go on your orbital bone, and you just make sure not to poke your eyes out, please, is you find a little divot, the little V that's on your orbital bone. It's a little gap in between the bone where it just kind of breaks for a moment before it rejoins. For me, it's about there. You put one finger on one side of the bone, one side of the gap, the other finger on the other side. And simply all you do there is you very softly, you circle outside for about a count of 10. I might do it a bit quicker here, but you would do it a little bit slower. Then you'd reverse it, go the opposite direction for about 10. And then you go in the opposite direction a bit faster for about 10. This may look a bit weird. And then you go in the opposite direction again about 10, a bit faster. And then you let go. What happens is it releases the same brain chemical inside your body as when you have that very first puff or second puff of a cigarette, to let you know that you can feel safe, you can feel a little less stress. It basically releases more oxytocin, so you just feel better about yourself. So that's how to have the same benefit as the first puff or second puff of a cigarette without having to smoke and without having to kill yourself, and it's totally free. So I want you to do that as we discussed in our work together, as many times as I asked you to do that, so you start to open up those new neurological pathways in your brain. You switch off the old ones and you open up the new ones, so you get the same chemical hit, the positive chemical hit, again, like I say, without trying to kill yourself or burning a whole bunch of money on it. Watch these videos as regularly as you need to. They're created here to make this journey as easy and as effortless as possible for you. I've been Luke Michael Howard, owner and hypnotist of Hypnosis. Always believe.